Long before there was a company, there was a family. Two families, in fact, headed by two brothers-in-law, John Prentice and Poldy Bentley, who fled their native Austria with their families in 1938. They settled in British Columbia and soon began making a life for themselves in their new country. Entrepreneurs and industrialists at heart, they opened a modest veneer plant on the banks of the Fraser River. Little did they know that this small operation was the seed that would eventually grow into what has become one of the largest forest products companies in the world. It was an amazing journey, and from the very beginning, Poldy's son Peter was a part of it.
I was a boy of 11 when I started attending family business meetings. We would gather on Tuesday evenings in my grandparents' living room. I loved being a part of the business even then, quietly listening and observing all that went on. Never a child relegated to the periphery, I was welcome to sit with my father, my uncle, and my grandfather, often with their wives, privy to their discussions about how they planned to build a new life for us all, with a company that eventually would realize their hopes.
As the family business grew, so did the need for employees. Fortunately, eager workers could be found close to home.
I went to work for the family company for the first time at the age of 14. I worked with a small crew 16 hours a day, earning 25 cents an hour. I was thrilled at how much money I made that summer.
Peter quickly found his passion and future in the forest industry.
I loved the work and the people, and learned quickly that there were many ways to cut and produce lumber. I may not have appreciated it at the time, but I came to love the smell of wood and the sawdust. I found it exciting.
Fueled by the success of Pacific Veneer, the company began to expand further into the lumber business, acquiring sawmills and other wood product companies across the Lower Mainland and on Vancouver Island. With all this new growth came a new name, and Canadian Forest Products, Canfor for short, was born. These were exciting days for the company and the family, and in the middle of it all was Peter, who got the opportunity to learn vital lessons in business and life every day from his dad and Uncle John.
As I would become more familiar with the business, my dad and Uncle John were supportive in allowing me to strategize in ways that were new to the industry at the time. I was, and continue to be, inspired by these two mentors who built a business out of nothing. I look back with enormous admiration on what they achieved with so little.
The values of the founding families became the principles that drove the rapidly expanding company: integrity, respect, and honesty. Then, as now, nothing came easy in the lumber industry, and Peter worked tirelessly to earn his reputation as a committed team player and as a strong, fair leader.
There may have been some thoughts in the early days about nepotism since I was the boss's son, but I tried to overcome any sense of that by working as hard as I could from the beginning. I sensed an obligation to lead by example, and I had to do everything as well as possible. My early exposure to the business on the ground was in timber cruising, surveying, timekeeping, and twice working on the booming grounds. I did it all. These jobs taught me the importance of understanding the attitudes and thought processes of hourly workers, whether in logging camps or in the mills. It was a matter of getting close to the man on the job and becoming one myself.
You always felt that they sincerely cared about the people of the company. It didn't matter if you were a logger, if you were working in a sawmill, if you were a salesperson. It didn't matter. Peter always exemplified that particularly and represented that well for the family continuously every day.
By the early 70s, Canfor had become a major force in the North American forest products industry, with mills in operations across BC and Alberta. In 1975, Peter was named president of Canfor, heralding the beginning of the most significant expansion period in the company's history.
One of the most exciting moments of my career was standing at the north end of what would become PGPP and admiring the steel skeletons of the warehouse, the pulp mill, and the chemical side of the operation. I loved watching the construction all the way down that endless half mile before it was obscured by floors and walls.
Canfor was now solidly established as a diversified forest products company with operations across the Pacific Northwest and customers around the world. And as Canfor's reputation spread, so too did Peter's.
One of the unanticipated results of the time I spent in our family's business was my role that evolved as an industry voice from Western Canada. Thanks to my position, I had the opportunity to meet several of the prime ministers in charge of our country.
Well, I first met Peter Bentley long before he knew me, because I worked for a company in downtown Vancouver, Bull McLean its name was, and his father would come in from time to time. Peter would come in the showroom, and he was that tall, good-looking, very polite young man. And everybody, I can remember, everybody was always impressed with Peter Bentley.
As a company that is wholly dependent on the natural world, Canfor has always been a responsible environmental steward, led by Peter as one of the early champions of sustainability best practices in the forest industry.
I have flown over British Columbia hundreds of times and always looked down at the forests with a mixture of pride and concern. Canfor has taken excellent care of the timberlands under its control.
This year, Canfor will celebrate its 81st year in business, an astonishing accomplishment for any company, but particularly for one in such a notoriously volatile industry as forest products. And across those 8 decades, Peter has provided strong leadership, wise counsel, and loyal friendship to everyone who's a part of what is now a truly global company. So what's the secret of Canfor's success? In Peter's words,
To survive in the forest industry, it helps to be an optimist. Rather than seeing it as a sunset industry, I see a bright future. Our industry has yet to see some of its best years.
it's been said that success is measured not by what you have, but by what you leave behind. No company or individual embodies this more than Canfor and Peter Bentley. It's a philosophy that runs through every part of Canfor today, a gift that Peter inherited from his family and that he in turn has passed on to a new generation who will grow Canfor to even greater heights in the future.
Poldy Bentley and John Prentice's ambition was not based on greed or monetary progress. Rather, my father and his uncle's philosophy involved playing the big game of life with the goals of success in the most positive sense of the word. I have enjoyed my part in the same dynamic game that combines responsibility and integrity at all levels of society. And I know and am very proud that my children are already carrying this ethic forward. Canfor is well poised for great success in the years to come.